So I want you to write down, or if you're listening on the podcast, just hold in your head, this is how I am my own worst enemy. Okay, you got that? All right. So specifically, let's talk about what you do. Do you procrastinate? Do you overcommit? Do you sabotage relationships? Do you speak negatively to yourself? Do you make pessimistic predictions? Like my client who was going to interview in after this session. Do you make excuses and blame outside circumstances? Do you abuse substances? So think through. Now, you just said, hey, Tamara, you did something unfair. You said land on one, but you just gave me a ton more ideas. I did, because I want you to start to narrow this is specifically how I think I self sabotage. Okay. Next, I want you to ask why. Now, if you are like my sassy clients, you will say, well, how would I know? That's why I'm here talking with you. Okay, that's true. But I do want you to take a guess. Why do you think you're self-sabotaging? Why do you think this happens to you? And just create just a little bit of a guess in your head. All right, today I'm going to talk about 4 reasons why. Those aren't the only 4 reasons, but they're 4 extremely popular reasons with my clients. Number 1, we don't trust our own abilities. And sometimes some of you are thinking, why would I trust my own abilities? I have ADHD and I get confused all the time, especially like I forget about pizza boxes. Why should I even try for anything else? I don't even feel like I'm capable of other things. I'm wondering how many of you feel like you can't trust your own abilities. I am not going to lie. There have been several times in my life. One of them was when I was starting the ADHD Center. I said to a friend, you know what? I feel like I need parental guidance right now. And what I was talking about is more parental supervision. I feel like I should be supervised. I don't feel grown up enough to make all these decisions. I'm an English major. What is a business? I'm not a business major. I and so I felt really overwhelmed. Like, who am I to try to do this? Reason 2 is fear of failure, or there's some of you out there who actually fear success. So fear of failure kept coming up again and again when I was writing my manuscript. When I wrote Your Brain's Not Broken, I had no expectations. I just wrote the book to an imaginary client I'd never meet and said, hey, your brain's not broken. Godspeed in the world, my friend. And so I had no fear of failure. Now with the second book, I had a fear of failure that kept popping up. And it kept popping up going, well, what if this book doesn't do well? What if this isn't going to work? And so the reason I kept self-sabotaging partly was I feared failure. I do have a client who actually fears success, which it sounds really weird, but I see this with a lot of my high IQ, high functioning, really kind of the go-getters. They look at, what if I succeed? Then people are going to look at me and they're going to figure out I'm an imposter. Yeah, that's called imposter syndrome. Again, I'm hoping you as a listener or viewer, you're already kind of thinking through these. Is it 1? Is it 2? Now I'm going to give you number 3. Number 3 is a lack of self-awareness. It means we're not even aware of the negative thought patterns and behaviors that are hindering our success. So let me go back to this example with the woman who was having an interview. So she comes in for her session and she sits down and she looks utterly defeated. And she's like, well, I have an interview. I said, oh, do you want this job? Oh, yeah, I want it really badly, actually. It's kind of my ideal job. Oh, now notice what she was saying wasn't really matching up with what she was thinking. And I said, anytime I see that, I try to get at, huh, I'm wondering what she's not aware of. Come to find out, she was fired from her last position. And she was fired from her last position because she came in 5 to 7 minutes late more than 3 times. I'm going to say that again. She came in late more than 3 times, probably 4 or 5 over, I think, a year. More than 5 to 7 minutes late. Now, is that possibly related to her ADHD? Yeah, probably. Now, she was working in a very unforgiving kind of environment. And by the way, this isn't like a high-tech lab where timeliness has to be exactly observed. They could have given her a little bit more discretion, but no, she got fired from that. And so what was happening is below the surface, she was starting to simmer. And without realizing it, she was starting to create a story based on a lot of negative emotions. Whoops, reason 4. Sometimes we use this as a coping mechanism, which means we'll self-sabotage because it's like we can't handle the pressure. And so what I want you to think of is, like a pressure cooker, like the pressure's building, and building. And you're like, I can't take it. I just need a whole day off. And one of my clients just did this. I can't take the stress. Stayed in bed, slept until like 4 or 5-ish by just staying in bed, sleeping on and off, not doing her job. And so she just self-sabotaged a whole day because she couldn't take the anxiety. Some of us might feel inadequate. And so because we're having this feeling of inadequacy, we're like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to lie, a younger version of Tamara, let's say in her 20s or so, didn't understand self-sabotaging and also didn't understand how sensitive she was to eating processed food and dairy, all that stuff. And so on the way home, I would stop and buy a bag of potato chips. And even just thinking of them, so good. But guess what happened? I felt so bad. And the next day I had a stomach ache. I'm not saying I ate the whole bag. Please don't go there. Okay, but maybe I did. But the whole point is I was self-sabotaging. I wasn't doing things to make my body feel better. I was actually doing things to make my body perform worse. But potato chips were a coping mechanism for me. All right, so now that you've seen those 4 reasons, which one do you connect with? Now, if you just said, okay, here's the reason, or I think it's a combination of 3 or 4, that's great. You can do that. That's allowed. If you're one of the ones that says, I don't connect with any of these, okay, your job's going to be a little bit harder, and you might even need a professional to help you kind of tease all this out. Okay, so just stay with me and keep listening, and we'll work together to figure this out. So the big reason we really self-sabotage is we want to protect ourselves. Or psychologically would say we want to protect our ego. And what that means is inside everyone, there's this protective nature, and we just want to feel safe. We want to feel safe. We want to feel loved. We want to have fun. We want all these basic needs. And when those basic needs are shaken a little bit, we'll work to protect ourselves. And sometimes when we protect ourselves, it actually backfires into a self-sabotage. All right, so here's our goal. Our goal is to approach challenges with a sense that we can overcome the problem and even grow as as a result. Now, I'm not talking about toxic positivity here. I'm not saying, yeah, we feel great about everything. No, life is hard. And sometimes, some of you guys, life is kicking your tails. And I get that. And I respect that. So this isn't a, you can do anything when you're in tough times. I want you to know, like, sometimes life feels hard. But I want you to start to shift your mindset to, okay, this is a challenge. And if I have the mindset, I can overcome this problem and I can even grow from it. That is our ultimate goal. I want to just pause here. And really say this is a mindset that we want to acquire each day. Here's the problem. If we just stop there, that's not going to help you resolve any self-sabotage. So it's kind of like we have to go through, clean the house, and then we can assume this mindset. Okay? Because if those ghosts are in our house going, ooh, you're an idiot, and we self-sabotage, did you like my impression of a ghost? I wish I hadn't done that. Anyway, if we don't clean out and get that ghost out, we're still going to be self-sabotaging, just with a positive mindset. And so when I say, here's our goal, this is our true goal, but we've got to do some house cleaning first. And so now we get to, how do you do this? There's 4 steps that I want to walk you through today. The first step is recognize your own self-sabotaging reasons. We just walked through 4. Don't worry, we're going to revisit those again. 2, understand the emotions that lead to the behavior. 3, ask yourself, what's the story behind these emotions and your self-sabotage? 4, develop self-supporting behaviors.